Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the desk one more time. My name is F. Joined here by my good buddy Anatoly. We've got some fantastic stuff going on for you today. It is the Challenger Cup, and it is the conclusion of the Challenger Cup. These guys have been fighting all season to figure out who would be the best of the best, and it's all come down to this weekend. We've got two teams coming at you. Well, we've got four teams coming at you, but two teams right away. We're going to take a look at Sanguine versus, well, it's Weenie Hut Jrs.
Formerly known as Team Aces, but so these rosters specifically have a lot of formidable ranked opponents that we've all known and loved. Medieval, FaymousHate, Covi specifically. On the other side, we also have ManRay. So a lot of these players have some experience in the Challenger Cup as well. Medieval playing on Hi-Fi, formerly with Chapo and Bruchacho. And FaymousHate used to play in the SPL for the spring and summer split of SPL Season 2.
Yeah, I mean, FaymousHate has been totally all around. We've seen him many, many, many times. And then even on the other side, as we watch a little bit later, we'll see Risky Behavior versus Most Wanted. Of course, they have a team in the console league as well. Familiar names there as well. iFates, Venunu, as well as Final K on the side of M-Dub. So a lot of familiar names, even if you're not deep into the challenger scene like some of us are. But for this first matchup, like we said, we've got Sanguine versus WHJ, which is how I'm going to call them for the rest of the day. Have you seen these guys play? Have you watched much of the Challenger Cup, Toli?
I haven't seen these two teams play against each other, but I know that their individual skill cap, that they could do a lot of interesting plays with some hyper carries that they have been playing in ranked. However, it's interesting to see if they're going to transition the same style from ranked into this team play, or if they're going to change their style completely.
So when it comes down to these teams, I have dabbled a lot in the Challenger Cup. Sanguine is a very, very strong team. Weenie Hut Jrs. do have some talent on their lineup. Specifically, GhostCreepr is pretty nice, and I'm a big fan of Mirage in the jungle. But when it comes down to it, Toli, I think that Sanguine are the team coming into this that a lot of people have very high hopes for. These guys have dominated pretty much the Challenger Cup. You see them frequently, if not every time, in the finals, and they're going to look extravagant as well coming into this one. I really don't expect anything different, but we'll see how it works out. Picks and bans right away, please. Without further ado, let's bring game number one, and WHJ will wind up on the left side with that first pick.
I'm going to call them the Weenies.
The Weenies?
Yeah.
Well,
They're going to be the Weenies to me.
All right, well, it's up to Weenie Hut Jrs. to figure out if they're going to be footlong ballpark Franks or if they're going to be cocktail weenies. But for now, they're going to take Nemesis out to make sure they don't get bursted down.
An interesting strategy. Normally, we don't see Nemesis being taken off the table right away. Ao Kuang is very popular in this stage. Normally, we have gods such as the Ao Kuang, the Raijin, sometimes even the Scylla if you don't want too much burst coming out of the mid lane. However, there is a lot of all-in potential with the Nemesis, and Weenie Hut Jrs. are expecting Mexiety to kind of use this strategy, also taking away the Capri, which is good both offensively and defensively.
Exactly. What the Nemesis does for me is Nemesis just enables more of the burst composition to come out. Whether you want to go that Scylla, whether you want to go the Ra, Poseidon, pick your flavor of burst. Nemesis does that extra seasoning that just pushes it past that next level. So just taking her off allows Sanguine to go different options, but Weenie Hut Jr. is going to protect themselves from the overabundance. Ratotoskr is going to be the first pick coming out for Weenies.
This is an aggressive opening out of the Weenies right off the bat, taking the global Ratotoskr. He does have a lot of burst damage available to him once he gets some items online. He's going to be trying to make the rotations. He even could gank the solo lane very easily if you're not expecting it. So Sanguine has to make some preparations against this global.
And that's what the Athena selection is going to do. Athena will be able to follow Ratotoskr around pretty much literally throughout the map, and Susano will be able to follow Ratotoskr around figuratively in the sense that Ratotoskr is going to be looking for these ganks in the lanes. Susano will do the same thing and try and figure out exactly where Rat's going and then exert his pressure there.
It's pretty versatile composition so far out of Sanguine. You can play both defensively and offensively with Athena and Susano. You can get some great setup. It doesn't matter who your mid laner is currently for that team. Whereas the Weenies, they're more aggressive so far with this Ratotoskr. You can't really play too defensive on that side unless you're getting all in under your tower.
So the Fafnir selection here for Weenie Hut Jrs. We saw it a couple of times in Europe, and it excites me that we're also seeing it in North America. This is a character that a lot of people were speaking out negatively against when he first came out, saying he wasn't going to be viable. We saw it in Europe. But Europe is generally a little bit more experimental, specifically with their support picks. Here in North America, not the same, but we still see the Fafnir choice.
It could be good objectively for Weenies to pick up the Fafnir and use his ultimate, get that attack speed for the whole team to try to maybe sneak in a Gold Fury if Sanguine is out of position. That could be a power play that Weenies are looking for. So pairing that up with the Neith during the rotations of the 3v3 between the support, jungle, and mid laner, the Fafnir has a really easy time to initiate, and that's what you need when you have a Ratotoskr in the jungle.
I like the Neith next to the Fafnir as well. See, I think that I think a lot of people might think about this Neith towards the mid lane. But with the Neith of the Fafnir, the way Neith is sort of balanced is that she gets a lot of power. You'll probably see a Transcendence start. And instead of a steroid on her character, she's got a debuff towards the enemy. It's important for the balance of the character not to have an attack speed steroid.
You have the attack speed reduction on the enemy, which is good. So you have the positives out of Fafnir and the negatives on the enemy of the Neith, so you get that complementing each other, which is really nice.
Exactly. The fact that the Fafnir is going to be able to give Neith the attack speed is what I'm very excited about. Weenie Hut Jrs, they look towards their bans one more time, towards that mid lane. Raj and Scylla, and I'm going to go with Nemesis as well. These are all affecting the mid lane bans. So Sanguine, they're going to go with the Soul for mid lane, most likely. I don't know if we'll see OE just there yet, but Chronos will be the selection for Weenie Huts in the mid.
Those were really important bans coming out of the Weenies, taking away the Scylla and the Rachetier, because the next pick out of the third banning stages was going to Sanguine, and pairing that up with an Athena and Susano, that would have been some really late game damage. So now they have to settle for a Soul, which is still pretty decent coming out of the mid, just not as effective as a Scylla or the Rachetier. Yeah,
I think Weenie Hut Jrs. absolutely slam dunked this pick ban phase. Right away with the Nemesis saying this, we don't want you to play a burst style. We see that Athena and Susano, you've got nice setup for burst. We still don't want you to play a burst style, so take the two most popular burst mages off the table. I love it. I think this is a very intelligent pick ban phase, and I'm expecting an intelligent game from them because of it.
I see a more stable composition out of Sanguine. You have the Athena and the Susano for the setup. The Hu Yi late game damage with Mark of the Golden Crow is going to be very strong for them, and it's going to be very difficult for the Weenies to handle that. And on top of that, you have a Vamana in the Soul lane, which is one of the safest Soul laners to work with against the Sun Wukong, who struggles a little bit in levels 2 to 3, but so does Vamana. So transitioning away once you hit level 7 in the Soul lane, the Vamana is going to start to roll over this Wukong, and it seems... Never mind. The Wukong, I thought it was going to go into the power pop for a second, but he backed.
So, it's actually very interesting. We do see the swap. I thought we were going to see the Neith next to the Fafnir in the long lane because of the way of how Fafnir can amplify the attack speed or this, that, or a third. It's still going to happen when it comes time to team fight. But instead, ManRay will be taking our Neith into the mid lane, and we're going to see the Chronos on GhostCreepr in the long style. So very, very fun stuff going on here. Let's introduce our teams, since it's one of the first times a lot of you players might be seeing them. Weenie Hut Jrs, Aquarius in the Soul lane, Mirage in the jungle. ManRay will be your mid lane on Neith. Dingodile and GhostCreepr will make up the long lane, whereas Sanguine Esports are represented by Medieval in that short lane. Mexiety will be your jungler on the Susano. Covi in the mid lane on that Soul repping Epsilon. And then, of course, your duo will be Rachetier and FaymousHate. FaymousHate, one of the more storied players, I think, in the Challenger Cup.
He has a lot of experience playing in the Season 2 of the SPL. He was on Cognitive Gaming before they made the change coming onto that fall split of Season 2, and he has made quite a lot of good plays against the more experienced hunters.
And that's kind of where I wanted to go with this, is FaymousHate, we've seen him a number of times, number of different teams, SPL, Challenger Cup, etc. Why has he not made it past that hump? Why don't we see him just a solidified Pro League player?
Sometimes we see different reasonings behind this. Sometimes players can't commit the time. Sometimes players haven't found the right atmosphere and the team environment that they need to successfully thrive in. We see Pain de Beyond always being able to find the right players because he has the right leadership. Maybe FaymousHate hasn't found that right leadership quite yet.
That just might be it, because the play is there. We're seeing it. Rachetier taking a bunch of poke, but FaymousHate playing relatively safe. Right side, Harpies going down. Sanguine seemed to have the beat on it. ManRay just has to hit it with one Spirit Arrow, and Sanguine realized that, so they're going to relinquish it, and mid lane will be their focus, whereas Weenie Huts pick up the right side.
So even though Weenies do get those right side Harpies, Sanguine could have potentially played aggressive after clearing the wave and prevent the rotation from Weenies coming back into mid lane, which would have denied a lot of gold in that mid wave. But because they didn't, now Weenies not only get the right side mid Harpies, but the mid wave uncontested.
ManRay wanted to forget about that mid wave, it looked like, but definitely met up and were able to clear it out. So GhostCreepr on this Chronos. Oh, that's the creepy Chronos. That's the creepy Chronos skin.
I love the way the time rift looks when he lands it.
Yeah. We'll have to take a look at it. Probably going to come out soon. Oh, I thought that was going to be a taunt. Usually when the Athena taunts, you see the response time rift or the time stop just to make sure. GhostCreepr holding it, ready to clear the wave. Very important stuff.
It just looks so destructive. Like you see the rocks coming up from the ground, just so much destruction.
That's what he's looking for. Mirage hits level 5, looking for the right-hand side. Comes down, both solo laners level 4. See you later. Mirage gets the easy kill. Quick level 5 for the jungler. Allows that surprise gank. Sanguine just had no clue.
We talked about the global presence out of the Ratotoskr, and this is something that you have to watch out for in the side lanes, especially with a Neith in the mid lane. Now, they didn't even need to use the World Weaver for that gank, but that would have made it that much easier to confirm the kill. Now, granted, Medieval was in level 5 for the big Colossal form, but either way, that's still something he has to watch out for, whether or not his ultimate is ready.
You know, I think he's toast even if he jumps up in the ultimate. I don't think he has time to actually heal up out of that nonsense, but Mirage showing off the rat a little bit, and you can see why a lot of people draw comparisons to Thor.
His global is just so far. You can sit in between the solo lane and the mid lane, or vice versa, in the Gold Fury between the dual lane and the mid lane, and look for those easy gank opportunities. He's also very quiet and hard to see coming from far away, so you have to have the proper communication and the vision to deal with these kinds of globals.
Yeah, you don't have that. Even when Thor's ulting in the jungle, you hear that like the big wind up. Ratotoskr just sort of goes, I'm not going to do it.
Bloop.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Like, yep.
I wasn't going to do it. Not going to be me. But Mirage now, with that first blood, sitting up level 7, about a level or so above. Aquarius misses the stun. We'll retreat just a little bit.
So off of this first blood, now in Sun Wukong's kit, he's going to be able to slowly bully Medieval away, slowly but surely. So it's going to be dependent on whether or not the Susano is going to make that one rotation to get Medieval a little bit back into the laning phase. Because if you look at the items currently, both of their teleports are down, and the Wukong has Warrior Tabby, whereas Vamana still has Tabby too currently. So going to be favoring Aquarius for a little bit longer.
Especially given the fact that Aquarius, I mean, Wukong is about that poke. There it is. I was expecting the cudgel, but small maximization right there. By using Warrior's Will, that is always 50 mana, so it's a relatively low mana cost. He's just trying to stop the back, drops him out right there. Some of the small things, that's what makes solo lane, right?
Exactly. In this position, I would have loved to see Aquarius maybe look for zoning onto Medieval, look for more poke, and then once you're under the tower, then you have the potential to find the kill. But the Neith ultimate is going to force the Vamana ultimate, and with this Athena ultimate, Aquarius is going to have to go up into the cloud, as Susano has made the rotation, which leaves the duo side kind of exposed. If Weenies wanted to do gold here, they could have potentially went for it.
Here's the rat, though. Medieval's going to pick off Aquarius. 2-on-3, but it's really a 2-on-2 as Medieval's going to exit out stage back. So it's a 1-for-0, which ties things up here. Sanguine finds their kill they were looking for so long. Mirage with a interesting gank. Doesn't really make up for it.
So in that position, the solo laner's aggressiveness can be turned against you. Now, you forced the Vamana ultimate for your ultimate and an Athena ultimate. You didn't have to commit with a Tiger Sun in that position. You could have just disengaged from there. And we talked about the Fafnir's potential to go for objectives with his ultimate and boosting up his whole team's attack speed. That would have been the perfect opportunity with a counter rotation from Sanguine onto the solo lane. That could have been a free Gold Fury for Weenies.
Yeah, I think in the ideal situation right there, and honestly, what killed that gank was the Neith ult. If that Neith ult isn't there, it's a surprise gank, right? Under the tower, you get stunned, then the Neith ult, that's a kill. But the fact that the Neith ult comes through, you get that big old targeter right away. Medieval knows that there's an ultimate coming up into the ultimate, and because he's in the big baby healing up, that is really what stopped that gank.
And unfortunately for Aquarius, using his Tiger Sun, he had no form of escape other than the cloud, so he was quickly to go down after the rotation from Mexiety and the ultimate from Rachetier.
Rough stuff coming out in the solo lane. That's been where a lot of our action has been taking place. But yeah, like you, I'm excited about the Gold Fury. I want to see what Fafnir can do with respects to the objective. Dingodile's been hanging out a little bit here in the mid lane, getting some farm going on. Nothing too extravagant. We're going to see these left side Harpies respawn very soon. Likely see Weenie Hut go over there on that side. But for now, they're going to invade on the speed buff. Mirage goes right on in, picks it up. Wonderful play by the jungler, and he's out, up and gone. The two players that have supported him will get taunted just a little bit. ManRay safe and sound in the mid lane. And Weenie Hut Jrs. trade one ultimate for the speed buff. I love it.
Great timing coming out of Mirage because he was 2 levels ahead currently at that point in time with speed buff, whereas Sanguine didn't even have their red or their speed at the time. So the timing of that invade was just impeccable. And you have to be looking for these opportunities, especially with the level experience gap at your favor.
Yeah, really enjoyed that play. Weenie Hut Jr., and again, going back to what we were talking about during the picks and ban phase, their pick and ban phase was very intelligent. And I wanted to see that intelligence make its way to the battlefield. And I think that that is what we saw in that invade. It wasn't a brute force invade. It was the only reason ManRay was there was just in case root. They weren't looking for the kills whatsoever. That was all Mirage, go in, hit it, oh, hope you get it. We'll see you later. It was very calculated, like you said, just extremely precise, and that precision is what allowed Weenie Hut Jrs. to pull off that invade. Loved it.
And that doesn't overextend ManRay in a bad position, like you mentioned. Sometimes we see, you know, you pick up ISIS, for example, in the mid lane for that early game pressure, and then you look for some invades around the speed and the red, and then all of a sudden you're in a team fight, but because you're ISIS with no escape, you get kind of picked off. But with Neith in that same position, you can easily disengage, and the commitment from Weenies was just for the speed buff. They used the Ratotoskr ulti. They got the Vamana and the Athena in response, so that was a win for them, not only stealing the buff, but getting the ulti advantage as well.
And again, so you get your Ratotoskr ultimate just now, just a couple of seconds, and this is sort of that dead time where, like, your solo lane is too beefy. You're not going to gank solo lane again. Your dual lane is dangerous to gank because if you gank that and fail, it's a free gold fury for the other team. So that like 7-minute-ish time period is pretty much no man's land. You can burn that ultimate because you know you're not going to use it offensively.
I love this positioning by Aquarius, going for this proxy farm, recognizing that his teleport is coming up soon, whereas the Vamana's is staggering behind, 90 seconds versus 20 on the side of Aquarius. So by proxying, he's going to be able to out-rotate once he backs and then rotates to the gold tier. He can even teleport back to solo lane if the medieval sticks around too long.
Just finishing up some of the items as the players are coming through. Starting to think about objectives, you can see. The vision being placed down on the side of Sanguine, right in front of that Gold Fury.
Just trying to basically get the positioning that they need around this Gold Fury objective, coming up at the 9.5-minute mark point in the game. Neither team really trying to go for the Gold Fury quite yet until there are some picks. It's still 1-1 on both sides. Very slow-paced game, I would say, but the speed buff is respawning, and that's exactly where Weenies are thinking about invading. But this time they're doing it without the speed buff on Mirage. Yeah,
so this time, this is a much more aggressive invade. I think Weenies want to fight more than just get the objective. It's 2-on-1 here. Is Medieval going to run away? Wow, Mexiety takes a big punch in the face from Mirage. Going to be forced up into the cloud. Don't think he needed that one, but just to be extra safe. You can see getting all the vision in the world. Dingodile's going to ultimate as well. There comes the dragon coming in as Medieval. Hit down below half HP. Big play, but Susano not going to do nothing. And Dingodile gets credit for Medieval. That's 1 kill already, and it doesn't look like Weenie Huts want to stop.
Great rotation coming out of GhostCreepr. The Huyi was just staggering a little bit too far behind. ManRay, meanwhile, was able to push the mid-wave, getting a little bit of tower poke, and now with this team fight going in the way of Weenies, they have an option available to them with either invading red buff, pushing mid, or going for the Gold Fury, but they're going to play very slow and go for these left mids instead.
You know, again, incredibly intelligent gameplay, all about the timing. Right before they go in there, you see a couple of important items finished. The Brawler's Beatstick coming out from Mirage is going to give him a lot of power and penetration, and the 50 stacks on Neith's Transcendence just got fully capped. So when Weenie Hut Jr. the first time, it was in and out. It was a rush job, just crash and grab for the speed buff. This time around, as I noted, Weenies, they were looking for the fight.
But now trying to counteract that, Sanguine are invading the blue buff on the right-hand side, and only Mirage is there to defend it. And it looks like the blue buff was picked up by Medieval, so a small marginal win for Sanguine, even though they lost that team fight onto the Vamana because of that Brawler's Beatstick, limiting the heal on the Colossal form, which is a nice, intelligent pickup, which is going to hurt the Vamana late game, but Sanguine still respond in kind.
And that's one of the benefits. If we could take a look at the Acorn coming out from Mirage, that's one of the benefits of having this this Acorn available, is that he's able to keep himself sustained, so he doesn't have to worry about picking up these defensive items right away. Like we'll see the Void Shield picked up right away by some of these junglers. He can be a little bit more dangerous, if you will, because he's going to get some of that sustain.
FaymousHate was feeling a little bit dangerous playing on the tower line of GhostCreepr. Luckily, ManRay was able to make the rotation, going to deter him away. But with the rotation from Rachetier coming online, there's going to be nobody defending this left side wave that got pushed by Sanguine. So that's a lot of golden experience lost.
That's a whole wave. Ouch. That's going to hurt a little bit for Weenie Hut. So they've been making very smart plays this time around. Forced out of it.
Right-hand side, that tower could be easily just being tanked by Aquarius, no problem. Does have the ultimate for the sustain if he gets into trouble. With the Vamana proxying as well, you don't really have to worry about a gank necessarily. So after clearing this wave, this should be a free tower.
Is there a reason that a solo, we're going to see him take it out? Is there a reason that he would have left that up?
He knew that there was realistically no way of defending it. It would take about 4 hits to get the tower, and he would go up to the sky regenning. And if you overcommit on some Wukong at this stage of the game, you're losing Gold Fury right away.
Right.
So you'd rather lose your tower than Gold Fury.
And Gold Fury is going to be where the fight takes place, at least. Ultimate out of Soul, not going to do much of anything. And Dingodile trying to help out his team a little bit. Sanguine on the offensive, 4 players strong by the Gold Fury. Going to push out Weenie Hut Jrs. Mirage going to head back towards the mid lane, meet up with Solo, and they're going to wrap around. Fantastic positioning from the blue squad. Will it be enough? Mexiety going to start things off, taking out Aquarius. Mirage sanctuaries away some of the damage from Solo lane, but this time the ultimate out of Susano. Fantastic. It's going to be right on through the group and send Weenie Hut's packet.
Medieval is going to try to dive Mirage, but going to get stunned out. Beautiful. However, Mexiety is able to find the kill, and with that, so far it's been a 2-for-0 exchange with Athena land. Again, GhostCreepr going to get taunted and pulled. No time for the rewind. So that's 3 kills on the side of Sanguine.
And that's why Sanguine has been #1 for a while, because the intelligence of the Weenie Hut Jrs. have been talking about it. Very smart plays, very calculated plays. At the end of the day, Sanguine just comes out and outplays them in the team fight.
They had the right idea. They were trying to collapse in that little corridor by the mid harpies, but the only problem was Aquarius got blown up and he didn't have time to even use his ultimate. He just got chain CC'd, and from there on out it was a 5-on-4 fight for Sanguine, and it was inevitable for them to find those easy kills afterwards.
Yeah, that's what happened. Aquarius and Mirage went to the mid lane to meet up with Aquarius, and so they come in, they're trying to collapse onto the enemy, right? They're trying to get that nice sandwich going on, but that top part of the sandwich, the Solo in the jungle, what happened was instead of getting this nice flank, everybody just sort of turned and looked at them, and 5 collapsed onto 2. Right away, Aquarius was down, and as we saw, Mirage got ticked down very low, forced into his actives, and had to run away, and you're not running away from Susano.
I just realized also, Aquarius didn't even have time to pop his meditation, so those are 2 big important cooldowns not used for that team fight, which could have easily turned it around, because if you're absorbing that many cooldowns from Sanguine, and then you turn it around, popping your meditation, using your ultimate to buy you some time, you can jump back into this team fight, as well as having the teleport available. Right. So those are 3 important cooldowns not used.
Yeah, just too much. Like I said, it was the idea was to flank, and Sanguine wasn't surprised. So just the turnaround. That's always what you have to worry about when you're starting you're starting that pincer maneuver. Is the fact that yes, the team in the middle can just turn onto your less strong, smaller unit, and definitely can burn you a little bit because of it. But Gold Fury goes the way of Sanguine, and after 15.5 minutes of play, Weenie Huts have been getting the better of Sanguine in these smaller engagements as far as the smaller objectives, but when it came time to fight, Sanguine unleashed and picked up the gold, and now we're all even.
Team fight in the mid lane. Mexi taking a lot of damage, but Mirage did come in and he gets taken out. Great rotation from Medieval. Backflip from ManRay. Going to get chased down by Medieval, but the sprint pop is going to buy him safety under the tier 2 tower, leaving the tier 1 of Weenie's exposed.
Ooh, fantastic knockup coming out from the rotation out of the short side. We've got Aquarius here. He's going to use his Oxform, but 5 members of Sanguine still available, ready to push down this tower. And as always, with a soul, you got to be careful. Dash in, double taunt. Dingodile on the front side going to be ulting. He'll be immune for the moment. 3 players, Sanguine, get hurt, and 1 player gets dead. Mexiety is going to fall, but so will the tier 1. And if you trade your jungler for a tier 1 tower at this moment, A-okay.
Definitely worth, especially considering Gold Fury is down, so there's no potential for Weenies to force this because Mirage has respawned, so they have that 1-player advantage for a little while. So Weenies need to find some kill, and they might onto Medieval. The ultimate was still down, so they're going to find that pick and continue on to Dingodile. His ultimate is still available, but he drops as well. So now there's a 1-player advantage as Dingodile does get traded.
Mirage is going to jump on down. He's Everybody saw this from a long ways away. He's trying to get what he can, avoids the damage out of the Hunter. Very intelligent play. And then as soon as that jump comes, everybody from Weenie Hut's here. Ultimate out of the Chronos is going to be strong, and everybody's chasing FaymousHate. Knock him out of Aquarius. Slow's there as well. Athena's trying to help him out, and it's going to work. Can't find the hit with the hammer. Now Covi stunned, but everybody's too far away. Weenie Hut now. Do they have what it takes to push this tier 1? ManRay doesn't think so. And so it's going to be a retreat out of the left lane.
They're going to disengage. They could have potentially looked for a play, but with a rotation from Mexiety respawning, he is full health, full mana, and he's going to be very difficult to deal with in this team fight as the rest of Weenies are a little bit low.
I like that ward, Tully. Why don't you talk a little bit about why that ward is right there on the red buff?
So onto the red buff specifically, you want to make sure that you spot any sort of rotations underneath, especially against any sort of globals. Mirage could easily position himself around that little area, and ulti, that would hit anybody in the middle of the dual lane, so that is an excellent ward. Also, the sentry ward in the middle, right behind the Gulf here, make sure that if your jungler is in that position, that he could sit in that little crevice and then just wait forever for the Hunter to reveal themselves.
Yeah, I really love that ward, because there's not a lot of times when we see people ward the buffs, they ward underneath. They ward right on the side, so you get the pathway as well. Very, very smart stuff coming out from Sanguine. Leading 6-4 at the moment. Gold pretty much even. So we've got a tie game here, folks. This, of course, is the Challenger Cup Finals, North America style. The winner of this game will go on to the actual finals, and they will be secured for relegation, which means the winner of this best out of 3 will go ahead and face some of the lower-seeded SPL teams to figure out who will make it into the Pro League next split.
So looking at the game currently, there's 20 seconds remaining until the Gold Fury does respond. So both of these two teams have to get really good warding control around, and it looks like Sanguine is doing a little bit of a better job controlling this vision. Mirage, however, preparing for himself and going to counter that ward.
Quick play. Just in and out. That's exactly what you want to do as a Ratotoskr. Mirage has been, you know, he's sporting the 1-2-1 right now. Not a positive record, but I've actually enjoyed, I've more liked Mirage's play than disliked.
He's been making the plays when he needs to. He found the early pick onto Medieval. He tried to go for the counter gank the second time that Medieval was a focus. I would have loved to see the shot calling to be going for that Gold Fury.
Right.
But he's also been making the important team fighting plays as well. Even though he's only gotten 1 kill and 1 assist currently, he's always a factor in the team fight. Going into the backline, disengaging shortly after, picking up the brawlers to deal with Medieval is a good way of not allowing this Vamana to get into that late game hyper carry form.
Yeah, I think it's also worth noting that he picked up the brawlers before the Jotuns, helping out the team as much as possible. And Medieval's going to help out his team by taking out GhostCreepr very quickly. Big old team fight here by the Gold Fury. Sanguine wanted to retreat. It looks like the Rat's going to let him. Ultimate out of Mirage, not going to be as strong as we've seen it thus far. Sanguine disengage, getting ready for the big engagement coming out from the Rat. As soon as they hear Ratotoskr back on the ground, engage right to the Gold Fury. Half HP on the objective already. Double taunt out of Athena. There's the Susano for some extra disruption. Everybody focused on the team fight. Aquarius up in the air. There's going to be the ultimate out of Dingodile and a full reset.
Just going to try to zone everyone away from Weenie. He's going to have a backflip from ManRay, but definitely going to get chased down. Medieval is dashing away. Sprint has been popped. Going to get knocked up. The slow is going to be good. And it looks like Aquarius binding a little bit more than he can shoot. Falls in this team fight as Mexiety runs away with the Sanctuary.
Dingodile doing a little bit of what he can, breathing that fire onto the enemy, but not going to be enough. Aquarius falls down. It's a 4-on-5. Weenie Hut want to take the fight onto the Gold Fury, but it looks like this one could be all Sanguines.
Athena's going to look for a taunt, going to find it onto Dingodile, going to get knocked up into the rest of Sanguine as Dingodile does jump away. Gold Fury really low, going to get reset. Looks like a few members are a little low, specifically Mexiety, as GhostCreepr has revived, which is very important, having all his relics. He did get picked off that last engagement, but Sanguine gets the Gold Fury steal. Weenie tried to sneak it.
And it wasn't going to happen. Sanguine stayed there the entire time. You're not going to fool these guys, and FaymousHate picks up the kill just to add insult to injury. Nobody on Sanguine even came close to dying.
Very impressive by Sanguine, just making sure that there's no way Weenies can sneak that under their noses. And the way Sanguine has been playing these team fights have been really on point and solid. They find the Athena taunt into the Vamana knockup, so that way when you're getting pulled towards your team, the knockup is going to pull you even further closer to your team, which is so important when you're pulling members into the Hui that's almost late game hyper carry form.
I've really been enjoying what Mexiety is doing as well. Just launching that Typhoon through everybody. He's not looking. A lot of times we'll see Susano's kind of hold that for the end, look for the extra kill, the guy that's running away. He understands how important the disruption is. And during that middle of the team fight, everything's going nuts. Let's make it even more nuts and knock everyone up. It's so impactful, and it was a big part of why Sanguine came up on top.
The knockup is one of the most important CCs in the game currently because you can't use your purification while you're in midair. It's not going to drop you back to the floor, which is why Vamana and the Typhoon from Susano is going to be so important to synergize off of these Athena taunts.
And Susano has been, as we said, he's been a big part of it, and just combining with the Athena, like you said. And now that Covi is really getting into stride, 1-0-5. Expect to see 5-0-1 for the rest of the game. This is really where Soul comes into her. Soul, for me, is a very strong mid-game killer and a late-game structure devourer. So right now, in this sort of like 22 minutes, it's a little bit later than usual, but Soul's going to start tearing people up.
A very quiet game out of Covi, but like you mentioned, Soul takes off in the late game once the items come online. Working on the Polynomicon currently, does have Obsidian Shard finished. Once that Soul Reaver comes online, could burst anyone down from Weenie's if that's the option she elects to go for. Looking at the player damage, she is the one that's quietly on the top of the chart with 13,500.
Yeah, and again, 1-0-5. Now with the Polynomicon finished, I think we're going to see that kill count go up. But those 5 assists, that's just launching the Stellar Burst and getting the group damage, launching the Supernova, getting the group damage, and by getting all of everybody grouped up, she's able to just put herself. Look at that. That's not a little bit ahead, Tully. That's 4,000 damage more than anybody else. That's a number.
Hey, we talked about during picks and bans the setup that Susano and Athena can do, that it doesn't matter what mid god you put with those two, it just setting you up beautifully. And right off the bat, Covi making a name for himself with that top player damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's two different styles, right? You can get the Athena taunt into the one-person kill from the Scylla ult, or you can get the triple Athena taunt into the spread damage. Everybody's at 60%, and that's what we're seeing out of the Soul. And this is also one of the big benefits of having a Soul in your team. You have 2 hunters, essentially, to take care of these towers, and, I mean, they melt like butter.
Especially the Gold Fury and the Fire Giant, having that extra attack speed once you have the heat fully maxed out. You're having an insane amount of objective control. On the flip side, however, Weenie hasn't really been able to exploit the Fafnir attack speed grouped up. You know, you go into Dragon form, you use the attack speed steroid for your whole team. It hasn't been really working out for Weenies this game.
Yeah, I saw earlier on, ManRay got the attack speed buff and then didn't really engage with it. There's a little bit of disconnect here, I think, between Dingodile's kit and what he wants his teammates to do. I like the pick, and I think the Dragon has actually had some good presence in the team fights, but we haven't been able to see the buff side of Fafnir, which personally, I think that's one of his more devastating abilities.
Once it comes to the late game, the Chronos hits level 20, gets his items online. You put that steroid onto the Chronos, you get a run. Like, you cannot get hit by this Chronos. Doesn't matter who you are or what items you have. You're going to get chunked with that attack speed.
So right now, Sanguine, they're up by 4,000 gold here in the mid game, and I think you can almost expect that if you're a Weenie Hut Jr. fan, right? Early on in the game, they did very, very well thanks to their intelligence. They were able to make very intelligent plays, and that's why they wound up doing very well in the early game. But then, as we approach the mid game, Sanguine they have these mid game characters, and they're also just playing their team fights a lot better. When it comes to late game, I think Weenie Hut, they have to lean on GhostCreepr. He has been almost a non-factor so far, and that has to change if Weenie Huts want to win.
I'm looking back at that one play, the sandwich play that Weenies tried to do, which a little bit backfired on them after Aquarius got instantly picked off. So now they have to change their whole strategy and how they want to start off these team fights. Maybe they're the ones that are going to be looking for the counter initiation, as Sanguines are the one that's going to be starting to force these objectives.
Weenie Hut's got some good positioning if they want to take the fight. Vamana's still in the mid lane, unsure of how he's going to zone. This is dangerous though. Gold Fury already bursted down to 50%. Weenie Hut's spread out. They might not even make it here in time. 10% on the Gold Fury. It's already gone before Weenie Huts show up.
And Dingodile getting poked out a little bit, just going to retreat. Aquarius doesn't want any action as well. And now it's going to be Sanguine onto the hunt.
They're spread out. They, of course, being Weenie Huts. That's just not this is the best outcome for Weenie Huts right here. The fact that nothing happened because everybody was spread out. They didn't show up to the objective in time, and Sanguine had their number. That backflip's going to save the life of the mid laner. Very important stuff. And now Weenie Huts, they have to defend here. Do they defend the tier 2, or do they fall back to a Phoenix?
They have to defend the tier 2. There's no reasoning to just give this up for free. There is no Fire Giant on the side of Weenie Hut Jrs, and there's only about a 6,000 gold lead, so it's not impossible to defend a tier 2 at this stage. And the golden hand for Sanguine, they're still sitting on quite a bit after that Gold Fury, so effectively, they're not really up 6,000 gold during that tier 2 tower siege. They would be about 4.5.
Right, the gold's still in the pocket, unable to be used just yet. ManRay poked out a lot, already down to yellow HP, and there's the ultimate out of the solo lane, who's getting poked more than he's poking. Susano with another fantastic ultimate, setting up FaymousHate. Down comes the Suns, already gets one out of it. Dingodile very low, chasing out Athena. Sanguine still have the upper hand on this team fight. Not a lot of sustain like we see out of some teams. With Sanguine, they've got one down. Mirage is not alive. And Dingodile is basically out of this fight as well. You can see coming around the backside, trying to find the burst. Knockup is strong. Follow-up damage is there as well. Mexiety gets one. The Hunter gets another. FaymousHate on a rampage with the Doubleune. And that's going to be good enough to take out the tier 2 tower. GhostCreepr on the run. It's going to be a deicide, folks. Sanguine on top. FaymousHate. That's trip skis. We'll see you later. And the Phoenix going to go down as well. 14-4. Sanguine looking for the win.
They're going to look for the win. They don't have the Vamana ultimate to tank this, but they do have Athena, Defender of Olympus, to mitigate some of the damage, and this time is going to go down. More than likely, there's nobody responding except for Mirage, but this Titan already about 2,000 health. This is going to be the first game going in the favor of Sanguine.
Fantastic play from Sanguine. There is intelligence in the small engagements. We saw it out of Weenie Huts. There's intelligence in these small type of things. But what it comes down to, if you want to be one of the great teams, you got to find yourself in those unscripted events. Sanguine was looking for the tier 2 tower. They got the game instead. Fantastic play and able to just grab the bull by the horns and figure out how to make it work.
The problem for me that I saw between these two teams specifically was their team composition, where there was more solid initiation out of Sanguine. You know, you have the Athena taunt, you have the Vamana knockup, or the Typhoon from Susano to follow up afterwards, even the pull from Susano. Whereas if you look at Sanguine, if you look at Weenies, they didn't have that same kind of initiation. They had the Ox form coming out of Wukong. You know, Fafnir could jump in, but then from there, like, what do you do really afterwards, you know?
Lack of crowd control, I think, was really the problem for Weenie Hut Jrs. We saw a lot. Again, I'm going to keep giving them credit where credit is due. The intelligent plays coming out from Weenie Huts were definitely there, but the lack of crowd control certainly hurt. I think the Fafnir pick was interesting, but sort of how we saw Khepri picked initially, and teams would suffer by picking Khepri and not having initiation anywhere. I think we saw the same thing happen to Weenie Hut Jrs. Without the crowd control, the players on the side of Sanguine were able to run completely rampant, and because of that, FaymousHate put on a clinic.
Who you got to late game, which is exactly what he needed to. And with the CC available to him, he's able to make these aggressive plays by just jumping in whenever necessary and finding the cleanup plays. FaymousHate just doing a good job in game 1. And then the rest of the team fight specifically, FaymousHate just continued. You see the Susano pull, the Athena taunt. There's just nowhere for Aquarius to go. You know, the tank coming out of Weenie is just dropping like a fly.
Yeah, I mean, just a whole bunch of nonsense. And this was a great play here where that Susano ult allows FaymousHate to go and execute. We see a lot of players talking about the damage out of Susano. It's certainly there. I'm not saying it's not. But his ability to create just disruption and allow the other players to set it up. That triple kill out of FaymousHate to clean the game up was because of Susano showing up. And Mexiety, honestly, doesn't wind up on top of the player damage, doesn't wind up on top of the kill charts, barely makes it into our highlight reel. But Mexiety is what set up and allowed FaymousHate to find a lot of those kills. So very exciting stuff here in game number 1. I hope we get to continue with the exciting stuff in game number 2. But for the moment, we're having a little bit of technical issues getting into the game. So go ahead, grab a drink. I certainly am going to. And we'll be back in a little bit with the next stuff.